All right, we continue this 5 o'clock hour. Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority, joining us on 365 Sports. I wanted to have you on a couple of weeks ago, Jason, but Paul and Craig both said if it's not about realignment, we don't care.
Untrue.
Life is definitely a lot less exciting. Not a bad way, though, now that realignment has quieted down.
No question. Why is Arizona better?
It's defensively, the personnel. I mean, they rebuilt the entire defense, and last year I'm not exaggerating. It's one of the worst defenses I've seen at Arizona ever, and this year it's legitimately good, and it's put Arizona in better position to win games.
Jason, Noah Fifita has been a revelation. I know that they felt good about their situation with Jaden DeLara going in, but since Noah Fifita has come in, it's changed things. What was the thing that made him so good so quick?
I think the thing with him is it's his demeanor. Like he's a very calm kid. He played at one of the when he was there, at least he played at one of the better high schools in Southern California against some really, really good competition, and he never the moment's never too big for him. I mean, his first career start was Washington, and then he went to USC, and then he's on the road against Washington State, and he'll probably start this weekend against the number 11 team. And he's always the same guy. He never tries to make this spectacular off the book play. It's the defense is giving me this, that's what I'm going to take. I have a team to worry about as well, and he makes limited mistakes and runs the offense effectively.
Jason, how have they handled just that situation? I mean, with Laura being the guy, I know there was some off-field stuff as well, but, is it just pretty known that, hey, it's Fifita's team now, or how's that all sort of being balanced out?
I mean, it's funny because I just got done with the Jedd Fisch presser, and he still won't name the starting quarterback for this weekend, but everybody knows it's Noah Fifita. I mean, it just has to be. He's played too well in his 3 games. The team has rallied behind him. It's just got to be him. And I know that there's probably some gamesmanship going on, and Noah will start on Saturday, and then after that, it'll be obvious who the starter is. But, they've handled it well. Jedd Fisch has a good relationship with Jaden DeLara. He's not going to throw him under the bus at all. He's been very, very careful to compliment DeLara at every chance he gets. But, Noah Fifita pretty much forced his hand with the way that he's performed.
I know Arizona had a 5-star player or someone who had committed, the decommitted, but other than that, how has some of this success in Jedd Fisch, the success that they're having and looking at the future with the talent they're trying to bring in with recruiting?
Yeah, it definitely helps. I think this is a big weekend. They're going to have plenty of visitors on campus, and they've lost a couple of guys because of NIL or whatever reason, but Jedd Fisch has recruited well since he's been here. Even when they were 1-11, Noah Fifita, Tatora McMillan, who's another 5-star wide receiver, who's really good. They committed coming off of a 1-11 season, and Arizona has had a vision they've been able to sell, and eventually, it has to lead to wins. They've recruited well, and the thing that they've done really well is effectively evaluate the transfer portal. Pretty much every guy that they landed from the portal has made an impact on Arizona, and that's not easy to do.
Jason, I know that Jedd Fisch got kind of tangentially caught up in this Michigan stuff because Connor Stallions, I guess, made the claim that he would help Jedd Fisch early on in his tenure at Arizona. What did Coach Fisch make of all that?
Yeah, look, I've known every coaching staff here for the last, a long time, and I had never heard of Connor Stallions. I think that SI report, he told someone that he was the assistant to the chief of staff, and I've never heard of him before, being related to Arizona. And Jedd admitted that he knew him. He was asked today. He's like, yeah, I know him. He actually came to the spring game to watch in 2021. That was the last time they talked. He said that, he's familiar with them. He thought he was a nice guy and all that, but in no way did he help Arizona with anything. And that kind of vibes what I know away from the scene. Is, again, I had never heard of Connor Stallions before the Michigan thing, and he's the guy whose name was never brought up when Jedd was building it. There was a lot of admin involved, and most of them are still with the program.
How surprising was the style of that win last week over Washington State?
Yeah, I had picked them to win, but I didn't think it would be like that. I mean, that was very surprising. Just the way, Washington State comes and marches down the field at the opening drive, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then from there on out, it was just completely Arizona. Arizona was able to do whatever they wanted on both sides of the ball. That was probably one of the more complete Arizona football performances that I can remember in a long time.
So Washington, USC, Oregon State, Oregon, Utah are at the top of the league, and then UCLA and Arizona are there at 2-2. Colorado's cooled off. The schedule's gotten more difficult. Washington State's cooled off. Is there anything in particular outside of Arizona's surge that has surprised you either in a positive or negative way around the conference?
Not really. I mean, I think Washington being as good as they are is a little surprising. I thought they'd be good, but, they've been really good. And, there's nothing that's been surprising. I think one of the bigger stories is just quarterbacks in the league. I mean, Cam Rising is out. Arizona has to change. ASU can't get a quarterback for multiple weeks. And then you take a look at the top of conference. I mean, even Caleb Williams has struggled the last few weeks. And there's some good quarterbacks in the league, some really good quarterbacks. But I don't think anything surprising. I think the teams that are at the top of the conference are the teams that we expected. Maybe USC not being as good as expected is probably a surprise. But beyond that, it's pretty much, Utah, Oregon, Washington like expected.
Jason, I know you don't cover them, but Arizona State has had a couple of moments. They're still not good yet. What do you think Kenny Dillingham has done, especially when you're going to see like the future recruiting space of Jedd Fisch versus Kenny Dillingham for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I like Dillingham a lot. He's a really good guy, and I think he has the right attitude. And he realizes, there's guys that, early on before their season, he kicked them off the team because they didn't fit the culture. And he always talks about the process. It's very similar to Jedd. They have the same approach that they did earlier on, where it's like, look, I know everyone is results oriented, but this is the process. I mean, they're rebuilding ASU just like Jedd was rebuilding Arizona. And there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not a one season deal. And so I think he has the right message, and the guys are still buying in. He's learning a little bit. I think he made some interesting play calls this season, but the key is when you're losing football games to have your team remain bought in, to believe in what you're saying. And to this point, his team absolutely believes in him.
Jason, realignment has not gone away, but it's at least cooled off while the football season has taken precedent. And I know, with it being the swan song of the Pac-12, there's a lot of focus there on the fact that Arizona's got a pretty good football team. But just since we haven't talked to you in a while, what's been sort of the long-lasting after effects and I guess conversation around Arizona of the move coming up next season?
Yeah, I think people are a little bit more excited, and really for basketball fans have always been excited. Now, I mean, the basketball schedule is going to be crazy, but I think for football, part of it is saying, that Arizona fans believe that they can be successful in the Big 12. And that's not a knock on the conference overall, but, you take a look at the schedule that Arizona's played the last few weeks, and it's Washington, USC, and et cetera, and it's like, 4 ranked teams in 4 consecutive weeks. And that's one of the stories of the Pac-12 is it's generally it's better than it's been, this year than it has in the past. But I think it's turning to excitement. At first there was, a little hesitance about playing new teams and all that. But I think Arizona fans, at least from what I understand and what I've heard, are more excited moving forward. And then again, basketball, it was never an issue. Arizona fans have always been excited about the future. You
mentioned this will be their 4th straight top 25 game. If UCLA can win against Colorado, then they'll have their 5th straight coming up next week. But your thoughts on Oregon State? The fact that it's in Tempe, how much does that matter against the number 11 Beavers?
Yeah, Oregon State splits, especially defensively, are crazy. When they're at home, they're very, very good defensively. And when they're on the road, they've been awful defensively. And I think this game is just going to – it's pretty straightforward. That the team that plays the cleaner game is going to win. I think it's very difficult with these two teams to turn the ball over, to have a lot of penalties, and still be able to come out with a win. I think Oregon State is a really good, balanced football team, and Arizona realizes that.
Jason, in the end, what do you think is going to happen with, in fact, Oregon State, Washington State? Are they going to have some alliance, I guess, with the Mountain West for a schedule? All of the stuff, the lawsuit, what's going on with that? What do you think might happen?
I mean, it all depends on timing because eventually you need a plan for next season. And a lot of times court dates lead to more court dates. And so eventually there has to be a deadline for that to happen. If all the court stuff, I think Oregon State and Washington State have a very good case in court, like to retain the rights to the Pac-12 and all that. And if that happens, I could see them trying to kind of use that money and rebuild the Pac-12 or whatever it'll be called. And, if it doesn't, they'll do the merger with the Mountain West. And it's difficult for me to imagine a scheduling alignment because in that case, how do you do standings? How do you, how does that work? Do you include them in your standings for a year or not? There's a lot that needs to be figured out. But it really right now, it just kind of depends on the court dates. And there's a couple next month. So I think we'll have a little bit more of a clear picture.
Nice to hear from you, man, without so much drama, but it was good to hear from you when there was, as things eventually iron themselves out with realignment. Jason Scheer, 247 Sports Wildcat Authority, with us on the Wildcats as they become, as I've said a handful of times, kind of a problem and a team that maybe not many thought would be an issue.